This is the standard front bumper for my Toyota Starlet, and it is rather boring. So in today's video, I'm going to be transforming it into this Glanza style front bumper, but before we get there, I've got a lot of work to do. Now, I'd originally seen this done on a TikTok video by a guy named Lewis, and I thought it looked so much better than the standard bumper. So first things first, we need to cut those grills out, and I'm going to be using the grinder for this. So let's do it. And I actually underestimated how hard it was going to be to fit the grinder into those gaps in the grill, but I managed to get it anyway. So after spending a lot of time cutting away at those grills, I eventually managed to knock them out, and that was the bottom one done. I then done the exact same with the top grill, and now there was no grills left in the bumper. And here's how the bumper was looking just after cutting it with the grinder. Not pretty at all, but then I could go over it with a 80 grit on the sander and tidy it up a little bit. After cutting out the grills, we now had holes left in the bumper, so I needed to fill them up with something, and that's where this fiberglass sheeting comes into play. I could cut out the shapes needed for the bumper, then mix up some resin, stick them down, and hope that it was strong enough for the bumper. Now I cut out these square parts for the bottom grill, and then I moved on to the top grill as well. These were a bit harder because it was such a tight area to work in, but I managed to get it. And this is how the fiberglass sheeting was looking. Obviously it's not pretty, but it doesn't need to be pretty, it's never going to be seen. While letting the fiberglass dry, I could sand out all of the damage on the rest of the bumper, and I could also sand down those fake bump strip areas because we're going to be smoothing them off too. Once the fiberglass had dried, I could get that first fill onto the bumper. So we done the parts that we had cut out, and then we done those bump strip areas as well. After sanding down that first skimmy filler, I could then put on some easy stop filler just to finish off those repairs. And once that filler was dry, I could sand it all back down, and now we were ready for primer. So I could get some primer onto both front and back bumpers. Now I'm using some highball primer. This is mixed at a ratio of 4:1. It's some really good stuff, and I put about 4 coats onto the bumpers. These were heavy coats as well, and the reason I done this is because we were sanding this bumper with 80 grit sandpaper, which is really aggressive, especially on plastic, so I wanted to get as much on there as possible. Once the bumpers were primed, they were looking so much better already. With them all in one colour, you can really start to see them coming together now. Once the primer was dry, I could sand down both bumpers using 320 and 500 grit sandpaper on my sander. I also had to do a lot of the edges by hand because you couldn't get to them with a sander. And all you're really trying to do when you're sanding down primer is take away that orange peel finish so that the panel's nice and smooth. Also had this mesh that I could cut and fit to size on the bumper as well. We'll be fitting this once the bumpers are painted, and unfortunately we're not going to be painting them in this video because I haven't painted the shell of the car yet, so there's no point doing that just yet. But to get an idea of what they're going to look like on the bumper, I fitted them roughly, and here's how they looked. And what a difference that has made. It looks so much sportier now. Obviously we've smoothed off those bump strip areas, took both grills out to give it that Glanza look, and we've done the same with the back bumper as well. Smoothed off those bump strips. I completely smoothed the boot as well in the last video, so now we have a completely smooth back end. So like most of my videos, they look like they take 2 minutes to do, but in real life they take absolutely ages. So thank you for watching this video, and make sure to follow the page.